Hey, good morning. It's Ken Walls. I want to welcome you to Breakthrough Walls. I have an awesome guest on the show today. If you haven't seen some of this guy's videos, oh my God. Well, he's amazing from what I can tell. We've been friends for years on Facebook, but we haven't ever really connected. So this is a first for me as well. So I'd like everybody to welcome my guest. David Cribbs. I already see Lisa Marie Kennedy in the stream. David, welcome to the show. Thank you for doing this.
Hey, thank you, Ken. I'm honored to be here. I hope that I can say something that people will actually listen to.
Oh, I think that they'll listen, man. They'll listen. I'm gonna turn on my phone here so I can see the comments here as well. This show is about helping people have a breakthrough in life. And I'm sorry, I'm pulling up my notes over here on my iPad. I've had some pretty cool people on the show, Lisa Marie Kennedy being one of them,
Yes.
Lisa Copeland, Sharon Lecter. I've had some just amazing guests on the show. Hank Norman, if you know Hank, he's
Yes.
freaking amazing too. And from what I can tell, and you've got a way better tan than I have, by the way. Like, kind of jealous there. Not gonna lie.
The camera?
Yeah. No, I think it's because you live in ways. I live in Ohio. You live in Florida. That makes a difference, I think. But I like to kind of start out with, and this is just kind of a casual, laid back conversation to help people see that successful people have been through it. We've all been through the crap in life, and I like to kind of help people see that it's possible to break through that stuff and come out on the other side and still be successful. So, in your experience, like where were you born and raised? Let's start there. Where did it all start for you?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm a Florida native, which is kind of rare here as well, but I was born and raised right here in the Tampa Bay area and been here all my life.
Wow, really?
Yes, yes. I was in the Army for 5 years. That was the only time that I was away. And even then I was stationed stateside, so I wasn't too far from home.
So you didn't get to travel overseas with the army?
No, the closest thing that I did overseas was I went to Panama, just south of us down here. I went to Panama for jungle training
Okay.
for 30 days, but that was the only time. I missed the Gulf War by 30 days after I got out of the Army.
Wow.
Yeah.
And wow. Is that the first? Which Gulf War was
That was, yeah, we're gonna date me now, but that was the first Gulf War, and I had been out 7 months when it got started, and they called everyone back that was in my job, in my line of work. They called us all back, those who had been out 6 months or less, and I had been out 7 months, so I missed it by 30 days.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, my little brother, my younger brother, I should say, was actually in the first naval battle group over there for Desert Shield. And,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and they were the first ones to fly the sorties and all that. It was crazy. So growing up, what I've found is most of us experience or have some sort of influence growing up that kind of formed who we become as adults. And so as I say that, and you start thinking about growing up and childhood, what do you feel like kind of had an influence on who you became as an adult?
Well, that's a great question. There's probably two things. One is, I was raised pretty much by a single mom. There were a lot of marriages, but they were short, and so it was pretty much a single mom and my grandmother. And my mom and my grandmother both worked. In fact, my great grandmother worked till right up at the end, and she was in her 90s. So the work ethic that was instilled in me, I think that's probably the root of, maybe something that impacted me to kind of set me up for a little bit more success later on in life. And then the other thing was, even though they worked hard, but they never had, big amounts of money or anything like that. So I always wanted things that I couldn't quite have. So between the work ethic and my desire to have things that, I wanted so desperately, I think that has driven me a lot.
Yeah.
So that was probably the two things I would say that kind of influence where I'm at.
What are some of the things that you saw around the world that you wanted as a kid? I mean, I can think back and go, man, I used to see sports cars. I grew up in a lower middle class, maybe even upper lower class, household. So we were dirt poor. And although I saw that too, the hardworking mother and all of that. But what are some of the things that, like, I can remember seeing, kids with nice, back in my day, Jordache jeans were the thing, and I didn't get that. I had to wear Wranglers or whatever. And
Right.
what are some of the things that you saw that you were like, man, I'm going to have that someday?
Well, I was always a paint and metal guy. And what I mean by that is anything that was made of metal and painted very shiny, that was all me. So I was very much into cars, motorcycles, go-karts, all those things. And I never really had those growing up. And, so I wound up, go figure, I wound up going in the car business and because I loved them so much. And I've owned countless motorcycles and, whatnot. So I guess I'm kind of overindulging in what I maybe missed out on.
Yeah, I can relate. So and I before we went live, I'm transparent. So I was like, dude, like Lisa Copeland, all these people in the car business know you. I thought you're in the real estate business, and you're like, yeah, I've been in the car business for a long time. Frank's going to be on the show Thursday, and I love that dude. He's freaking amazing. So, so you got, let's back up. So like you went to school in the Tampa area. Did you go to college?
I went to college. I have about 2 years of college, and most of that was done while I was in the military, kind of in different places. So, but not a real, I don't have a bachelor's degree. I didn't really study one particular thing that was going to be my career. I went in the Army for 5 years. Right after I got out, I went straight into the car business and never looked back.
Really? So you didn't was there there was no McDonald's or,
I had some of that stuff when I was in high school. Again, I started working full time when I was 12. So, again, that goes back to that work ethic thing. But, when I was 12, 11, or maybe I was 11, I had, probably 12 or 15 lawns that I mowed every week. I think I mowed enough lawns by the time I was 15 to say that I was a professional landscaper, retired. But I did that, and then I had, I worked at a mall, a clothing store when I was in high school at 16. I used to do Chuck E. Cheese. I was actually the Chuck E. Cheese. So I got in the uniform and got in the mouse costume and ran around. So I've done that, but always had, those kind of jobs before I went in the Army.
Wow. The Chuck E. Cheese. My little girl would love you then. So you came out of the Army, and that, like, your first job was at a car lot.
Yeah, pretty much. I was always a natural salesperson when I was growing up, and I learned that very early on when I was in the Cub Scouts. I had to go down in front of a Publix and shopping center and start selling stuff in the parking lot to raise money, and I killed it because I realized that all I had to, I leveraged the fact, I even, was conscious back then of leveraging, and I would leverage my youth as a kid to make people feel bad so they would buy something for me.
I've never done that.
I did back then when I was like 8 or 9.
I'm sure I did.
I gave them the puppy eyes.
Yeah. Well, in the winter here in Ohio, we went out and shoveled snow. Like we shoveled snow for money. We mowed yards in the summer, shoveled snow in the winter, and mowing yards is way easier than shoveling snow.
I agree, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
You don't hear about people having a heart attack while they're mowing a yard, but you do hear about it while they're shoveling snow. It's serious work. So you got into so you ended up in the car business. You ended up working at a dealership. Did you go directly into sales, or were there any other jobs in there?
Yeah, no, I went directly into sales. I think I was 22 at the time, and I went in to interview. I knew that I loved cars. I knew I could sell. And the guy that interviewed me is kind of funny, but he took about 2 or 3 hours to interview me. It was crazy.
Wow.
And I went home that night, and I told my wife said, "Well, how did it go?" And I said, "Well, I think it went okay. I mean, it was like 3 hours." And I said, "But the killer thing is he wants me to come back tomorrow night and talk to his partner, his sales partner, another closer." So I went back the next night to talk to him, and the interview was about 60 seconds, and they told me I had the job. So that's how it started.
Wow. So I interviewed. I've never sold a car in my life. I take that back. I sold one Jeep at Jeep of Marietta in Georgia, and I quit after that. I said, I saw the commission. I was like, I didn't make hardly anything on this. This is crazy. So, but I did interview at a Toyota dealership when I was 19 here. It was Tansky Toyota in Columbus, Ohio. Uh-huh. And Tom Tansky came in after they gave me the little assessment test, and he said, "You should never get into sales." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Don't," because I wasn't in sales at all. I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Don't get into sales." I worked at the Honda factory, and so that just pissed me off enough to make me become pretty dang good at it. So
there you go. There you go.
But I think that we all have those driving factors in life. I've had them. I'm sure you've had them where somebody tells you can't do something, and that makes.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
Well, that's my favorite quote. I put. In fact, it's on my profile picture, but. I often say they can only tell you can't until you do. And I just live by that because, another thing I'll often say is, hey, if you tell me that I can do something, it will encourage me and motivate me. But if you tell me that I can't do something, you're probably going to be entertained. So but I can't help myself, and I try to say that humbly because, I don't want to sound arrogant, but it really does, just like you mentioned, I think it does something in people when they're told, no, you can't do that, and, inside that a little bit better,
Yeah. Yeah, it drives the hell out of me. When somebody says that, it's like, okay, that's the challenge accepted.
So Ken, you can't send me a boatload of cash. I just want you to know you can't do that.
You're right. That I'm positive.
Oh, come on!
Yeah.
I want you to go for it.
Hey, this ain't my first rodeo, man. Come on. So what I've seen, and I know you see it, people end up getting stuck because maybe somebody told them so many times that they can't that they eventually believed it. but there's that burning desire that's still there, that they want to get to the next level in life. And I see some of the stuff you're doing, man. You're a freaking rock star, and you know, I think that and you humbly shake your head and you're like, but you know, inside you know that you're making bigger leaps and taking bigger chances than the average person does. So like, what would you say, like, is to this point in life, what is the number one biggest life lesson you've learned so far?
Oh gosh. Probably, it's so difficult to answer.
It is.
Let me just say this. You were talking about people that kind of get stuck, and this drives me crazy inside. I don't express it a lot, but I think it's kind of like I feel bad for those who are maybe either stuck or in a rut or kind of have either gotten complacent or fallen into the trap of believing that, it's just probably not going to get better, or, it's too risky for me to go out and try other things. You know, I just have never, I don't know why, but there's, just a mental block on that for me. And I think that's a blessing. But for those who kind of going through that, the only thing I can say is that, I'm just silly enough and just naive enough to believe in almost anything.
Right.
And that has really served me well, actually, because it's like when you said, okay, you can't do this, and what that maybe does to you inside. My thing is like, why? Like, who made the rule that I can't do this, right? So that's. I guess I would ask, those who might be in that spot to maybe open their minds to the fact that there is a lot more that they can do. One person has so much power that they don't realize, that they don't use. And I'm a big Grant fan, and Grant Cardone, and one of probably the biggest reason that I'm a Grant fan is because he doesn't think with limitations, and it's helped him grow incredibly, as we both know. And
Yeah.
and and the biggest piece of advice I guess I would give, and maybe overcoming that mental block or that stagnation that you may be in, is to start finding people that don't have those boundaries. Start finding people and surround yourself, because I think that's been part of the reason for what success I have experienced, is that I've been around people that think differently. And then when I get around people that think in a very closed-minded or limited capacity, it just drives me crazy. So
Yeah.
and part of what you're doing here is exposing that with all of your guests. I mean, all those people that you mentioned that I know, those are the people I surround myself with for the very reason I just said, and they're all rock stars. And the funny thing is, the more successful a person becomes, typically, the more willing they are to share that with you. And because, years ago I would have thought, oh, well, this guy or this gal's doing so well, they don't have time for me. Look, those people are usually longing to help someone else.
God, that is so freaking true, man. That is so true. I have a really good friend that is an optometrist, and he has a couple of 2 or 3 practice locations here in the United States, and he has like 6 in Jamaica, and he's very, very successful. And I talked to him yesterday and asked him to be on the show, and I said, he's like, oh my gosh, I'd love to do that, and blah blah blah. And I said, I've been wanting to ask you, and I don't know, I haven't had the guts to ask you. I don't know why either. And he goes, oh, it's probably because I'm so unapproachable. And he's not. It was a joke. Like, that's what he lives. Like, one of his practices in Jamaica is all, free. He does free stuff for people in the, on the lower that just can't afford it. So
Sure.
like, and that's one entire location. He does that. It's a clinic, and so like you're right, man. I find, and it's the same with Grant. I used to have a show on Grant Cardone TV, and I was like, I wanted to interview Grant on there, and I kept saying, man, I gotta ask Grant, and I was terrified to. I don't know why, right? It's because you feel like, oh, he's too busy, he's gonna say no, and I don't want to be rejected by Grant Cardone, and
Right.
so I asked him, I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to, man, let's get it on the schedule. It was like, I'm like, what? Like,
Really?
no objections? Like you're not too busy for little old me, And it's like, but that's
Right.
the thing, man. Is we all get to that place mentally, and I love that, dude. I love that. You're 1,000% right. People that are more successful than others generally do like to give back and help. So let's see what. My wife just asked a question. What is the secret to success in the car business?
Wow. I'd say the secret to success in the car business is probably the same that it is in any sales business. And that is, you have to learn your craft, but before you even begin there, and I would say the first step of learning your craft, maybe I'll say it that way, is making certain that no matter what you're selling, if it's the car business, real estate, anything else, that you're sold before you sell. This is my biggest. This is how I start every training, and it's how I start every speech. It's how I start everything that I approach. Is, can I get behind this? Am I sold on this product, this process, this everything? And if I'm sold, now I have just given myself such an amazing advantage over everyone else. Because if I'm sold, and when I say sold, I don't mean like, yeah, I believe in this, this is good, this is a great product, this and that. Ken, I'm talking about sold out, like you just went to the best movie, that you just saw Star Wars for the first time, and you think it's the most incredible movie, and you think that everybody in the world has to see it, and you begin to sell that, and you sell it in a way that you can't take no for an answer. Anyone you run into is going to go see that movie because you influence them that much. So I think that being sold before you sell, in fact, I would argue that it's almost unethical to sell if you're not already sold out. But being sold out before you sell, and then really learning your craft. The cool thing about sales, no matter what product you're selling, typically there aren't that, because you're selling a specific product, typically there are not that many objections that you encounter. So, maybe I'm selling real estate. If I'm selling a home, I kind of have some ideas about what I can expect as an objection, or maybe a time delay, something like that. And then once I have solutions for that, I've figured that part out. So you get to practice your craft every day, and if you're not figuring out the solutions and working on your process and understanding all the nuances and the dynamics of it, then you're probably just like shooting fish in a barrel. You're just trying you're doing something different every time. And I know I'm rambling a little bit there, but
No,
I'm just
you're right.
yeah. And another thing that I have learned along the way, and I practice this in not only the car industry, but also in real estate, is I look at and I'm really not that big of a sports guy, but I recognize the lessons from sports, and I look at my business like a football team. And actually dealerships are beginning to do this, but where you become very specialized in all the little different things. So, for example, I've implemented with my team, I do actually already have a team of 4 in my real estate business, but I've implemented the mega open house. When we do an open house, which we do, often, it becomes, I sell it as an event, not just an open house, but an event. And I stage the home, not with furniture, but with signs, and my team knows that from the moment someone walks in, they know each question that's going to lead them to the next step in the sales process, and it stays the same on every single open house. So we're not greeting people differently. We're not asking them different questions. We're not, we have a science to everything. So our last few open houses, where most realtors, they might get 4 or 5 people in and they maybe hope that they'll get 10 or whatever. We're driving 20, 30, 40 people through in a very short amount of time where they're all in the house at the same time, and we're getting multiple offers on the first day over record prices. And
wow.
And it's not because we are such superstars. It's because we have implemented something that becomes a little bit more bulletproof. In other words, we've handicapped it. I love leveraging and I love handicapping. I have to cheat, Ken. I have to cheat. I need the odds in my favor, man. It's like Vegas. The house is going to win because they have a handicap. Well,
right.
You can do that. You can do that with your sales. And when I say that word, I know it sounds kind of funny, but you can do it not only in an ethical way, but you can do it in a way that creates so much more value for your clients and for your potential prospects. That another benefit, Ken, is when we do this. Well, potential sellers or buyers that are coming in to sell their home, when they see that, they're like, "Oh, wait a second, this is what I want for my house." So I also share with my team that every time that we do that, even though we're selling, we're also being interviewed at the same time. So
dude, that's amazing. That is absolutely. And the thing is here's what I think people are afraid of. Like, dude, I have a computer. It has a webcam on it. I'm talking to you on it right now. I have access to Facebook just like everybody else on the planet. And I'm doing a daily show where I'm interviewing rock stars like you. And other people want to do it, but they won't, right? So like you can sit here and you can tell the entire Tampa Bay, hell, tell all of Florida what you do, and it won't matter. It will not matter because 99% of them can have the formula to success. You're giving it to them right now. You're like, hey, dude, this is how you do it right here. And 99.9% of them won't freaking do it.
That you're absolutely right. Lisa Kennedy, I just signed, obviously Lisa and you had her on the show. I just signed her as a permanent co-host of Under Contract Live, our real estate show. And we recorded an episode the other day and we were talking about this very thing because I gave out some other secrets that I use in the real estate industry. And she's like, okay, so are you really going to tell this? Why are we giving this out? And I'm like, here's why. And she knew why before she even asked the question. So, but you're right. It's like my first response was, well, I can blast this out and there can be 1,000 realtors watching and almost this many will do what I'm going to do and have success with. And, it's good in some ways and sad in another. I actually want them to use it. I want them to use it, and I know it will help. And I don't have all the answers. There's things I'll take from them as well. But when you have something that is simple, is cost effective, gets great results, and you know that it's duplicatable very easily, and you share it, and then they don't use it, it does kind of make you scratch your head.
I think it's the same reason that people don't work out. I want, it's like if I want a super fast car and I'm going to go buy a Ferrari or a Tesla Model X or something, and it's the instant gratification thing. And so it's why people don't work out. It's why people won't go. Like, did I charge you anything for this besides your time? I didn't charge you anything. I'm not making money off of this. I'm doing this to literally help the world. And obviously it gets me, it gets you attention. It helps everybody. And so, like dude, people aren't willing to do the free stuff to get to the big stuff. I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
Oh my gosh, this is, yes, I wanted to actually bring this up on this show because I think that I cannot begin to tell you how many calls I get about Under Contract Live. It's the real estate show that we do, and the show is for realtors. It's not for consumers. So realtors figure out right away, well, wait a second, you're doing a show for other realtors, but you're not doing it for consumers, so you're not getting the benefit, like you're not selling houses or picking up customers because you're not, it's not geared to them, it's geared to us as realtors.
Right.
You're not really selling anything. You're not even really selling your training. You're not really, so what's in it for you? Like they keep asking, like, I mean, I get calls every week, probably 2 or 3 asking me, because it's been about almost a year and a half now that the show's been on, but Ken, I can't begin to tell you all of the greatness that has come from just committing every single week. And my show's not that good. I mean, it's going to get better, by the way. But I look back and the show is not, it's not like it's, everybody's tuning in and it's on Fox at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night and it's, in the Nielsen ratings. It's not that, but showing up every single week and doing it week in, week out for a year and a half, I cannot even begin to tell you the countless, not only opportunities that have come from the show, but now I do have paid sponsors, and I've parlayed that podcast into so many things, big events, which, I do okay at, and things like that. So, like, those things that you think, well, I'm not going to really do that because it's not going to really help me that much, you can look at it like that, or you can say, you know what, I'm going to say yes to everything until I can't say yes to everything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I learned that from Grant a long time ago, too.
I'm with you. And I think that, people like this is going to sound dumb, but like one of my favorite movies, and not the movie itself, but the whole concept behind the movie, is Miracle on 34th Street. And it's if you remember the Santa Claus of is it Gimbel's department store starts sending customers down the street to the largest competitor because they didn't have what they wanted in the store, and it's like people were flipping out, but all that did is it created a stronger, customers are looking for, man, there's so many BS scams out there, and people they think that they can BS them into believing this, and then they'll write them a check, and then, all their problems are solved. And that is not the solution to your problems. That may be a temporary fix, but it's not a permanent long-term solution. A long-term solution is what Grant talks about. I think it's chapter 11 of Sell or Be Sold, and I could be wrong, but it's give, man. You got to give first. If you give people what they need and desire first, the money will come. The money will come.
Absolutely. So, yeah, and just like, when you were saying that, it reminded me of Gary Vee's book, too, jab, 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 right hook.
Yeah.
And the idea of give, and then maybe ask, that's huge. And that's what's, going back to the whole podcast thing with Under Contract, and by the way, I learned this from doing the Auto Dealer Live show. The Auto Dealer Live show now is, 6 years old or something, and I've done that for about 4 years, and I saw the recipe that they had and what they were doing. I say they because David Villa is the owner of the company, and it's a big, fairly good sized company, but I work with him on the show. But I realized right away the brilliance of what they had put together, and basically they do a show, and I do a show now, Under Contract Live, which is again for realtors or for the industry, not trying to sell anything myself, but building an audience. Now I have a targeted audience of realtors. Well, guess who else wants that audience? Everyone that serves the real estate industry, the mortgage people, the title people, the home inspectors, the appraisers, the cleaners, movers. Everybody wants my audience. Now I have something of value that I haven't gotten paid to build up, but now that it's built up, now I have something I can leverage, and leverage it in a way where now I can serve realtors even bigger and better things to help them grow their businesses, while at the same time funding it through, these other vendors that I don't compete with.
Right. But people don't get that. They're looking for instant gratification. And I love that, dude. You see, this is one of the reasons I'm doing this show. I have 5,000 friends on Facebook, and I don't know so many of them on this level. And I didn't know you on this level, man. And I freaking love it. We're cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So if you were, I have a suspicion. I know how you would answer this, but I'm gonna let you answer instead of guessing. For someone who's stuck, they can't find their way out. They can't figure it out. Maybe they're overdrawn in their account. They've lost their vehicle. They've whatever. I don't know. Maybe they just can't figure it out. What would you say to that person? What would be your number one piece of advice you'd say to somebody who's just stuck and they can't get unstuck?
Okay, so this probably isn't the warm and fuzzy answer. What I'm going to say is what I was told. When I first got in the car business, I had a sales manager who became my mentor for 20 years. And he used to tell anyone that was in a sales slump that, look, you have to sell your way out of a slump. It's the only way out. You have to sell your way out. So, my short answer is pull up your big boy pants and your big girl pants and sell your way out of the slump. And, you just have to, another thing I'll say when it comes to that, because it kind of ties in, and we've probably heard this before as well, but I'm just a really big believer in this, is that success is a decision. You talked about working out and, that it's a decision. Like, I know if I work out every day for an hour and I do this and that, I already know what the result will be. That's the good news. And in fact, holy crap. I mean, we already know what the result's going to be, right?
Right.
But making the decision that that's it, I'm deciding this is my new life. This is my lifestyle. This is it. I'm going to walk through this. Working out, we have an actual result that everybody can agree that the body's going to change for the better.
Yep.
In sales, if you commit to just making the decision, and this is the good news, you can be instantly great at sales, in my opinion, just by making the decision.
Yeah.
Because the processes are in place, and also 90% of the time the support system is in place. You just got to get up and do the work. I told my team, because we just started the real estate team a couple of weeks ago, and I said, and I've got one agent that's brand new, another that has some experience, and a third that is our transaction coordinator, and then myself. And the first thing I shared with them is that, hey, look, I do have the secret sauce. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, the secret sauce is simply this. It's not that you have to be a superstar today. It's not the level of talent. It's not this or that. I believe in all of you. I think you have talent. But here's the big thing, is that what we're going to focus on, we're not going to focus on how many houses we need to sell. We're not going to focus on how many buyers we need to get. We're not going to focus on any of that. What we're going to focus on is our activities. And if we focus on our activities, if we're willing to pick up the phone, for 3 hours in the morning, 4 days a week, and then switch to our going out to places to see people, and then we switch to our time with video, and we do that. and we control our activities and we manage our activities, we'll be overrun with business. We won't be able to control all of the business that we have. So it's a decision just that you're going to do the dirty work, basically. And if you start, what's amazing is if you're down and out, or you're feeling a little bit like in a slump, or you're not quite there, what you need more than anything is you need a victory, and you need it sooner than later. So you can start small, but start with something that you know that you can do, commit to doing it, and watch the result happen. That will give you that belief that, hey, I'm seeing it happen. Now you go a little deeper, but it's just a decision. So pull up your big boy pants and your big girl pants and go out and just do it.
Dude, I think it was Grant I heard talk about. I think it was him. Maybe it was Gary Vee. It was somebody said you have to lie to yourself. You have to lie to yourself. You know, somebody just said on here, and I won't call him out because this is going up on my TV network. But he said it's simple but not easy, and I disagree with that statement. I think it's the hard part is making the decision. After that, it's going to be as easy as you allow it to be in your mind. Like, it has to start there. Because if you go in with a defeatist attitude, you're done before you get started. Do you agree with that?
I do see your perspective. I probably agree more with his statement, though.
Okay, that's all right.
And the reason I do is because, and I think that you're onto something. I think what you're saying falls into the first part of it that he acknowledged, which it's simple. There's a simple, we know what we have to do. It's simple. Like, all the proof is there in front of us, right?
Yep.
That things work. You know, you reap what you sow. It's a biblical,
Yep.
Thing. So the point, though, is it easy? Well, it may not be easy for me to pick up the phone and cold call. I might not have a comfort level there. So that's the part I think that maybe not easy. But
right.
To your point, make the decision, decide that you're going to do it. What I would say that kind of sums it up, in my opinion, a little bit differently, that helps me, is being unencumbered by the facts. That's what I want. I want to be unencumbered by the facts.
Right.
And this is a training. I'll give David Villa some credit there too, because he does a training of that. I do as well. And I'll use very briefly. I'll use an amazing example. A few years ago, I adopted a greyhound racer. Was a champion racer, but retired. Now sits around all day, whatever. But as I was researching about greyhounds, they are a hound dog. Hound dogs typically hunt for their prey by the smell. Greyhounds hunt for their prey by sight. They're sight hounds. So that's why when you go to the dog track and you see dog races, that's why they move that little steel fake bunny rabbit around the track, and
right.
the dogs go chasing it. What I didn't realize is that the dogs, when they see the rabbit, they never see another dog again.
Wow.
All they see is the rabbit.
Really?
So there's 10 dogs going at it, clanging into each other, and they are so unencumbered by the facts that their sight is focused on that. And they will, and by the way, when you get a greyhound, they teach you this. You have to keep them on a leash every time you're outside. They will run through traffic if they see prey. They'll get run over by a car. They don't care. They're unencumbered by everything around them. And that's how I think of it now.
And you said that's from Dave. That's you. That's like
that is my take on it. David Villa does a training called Unencumbered by Facts, and I applied that when I found out about the greyhounds and that kind of thing.
Dude, that is absolutely freaking amazing. I did not know that. Those are facts that's probably the most valuable thing I've gotten out of this interview. Wow. Like they don't see another dog. They're that focused that you can't, once they lock in on the prey, they're going, and that's it. And Wow, dude, that's amazing.
And they rarely lose, by the way, when it comes to getting their prey because they're the second fastest land animal. So unfortunately, they get teased a lot when they're racing with that fake one.
Wow.
But yeah,
My wife's on here, and she's if she had it her way, we would have like 30 dogs here. So she said I've always wanted to adopt a greyhound. So
greyhounds are awesome.
yeah, they are. They're beautiful animals. So so your number one piece of advice is just freaking stop complaining and whining, pull up your big boy, big girl pants and go.
Honestly, yes. I mean, I know that people, I know that there are limitations. I understand that circumstances, it's easy for me to sit here and say that.
Right.
And I know that sometimes your circumstances can be a little overwhelming. I totally get that. So I'm not cold-hearted and whatnot, but I think 90% of the time, Ken, it's just, the things that we use. And I do the same thing. I still, as you know, we're a work in progress, all of us. So
Yep.
every time I say something, and this is the cool thing, and you probably relate to this, Ken, but the cool thing about speaking and coaching and training and actually getting out there and doing these things is that just like a preacher, right? Every time we open our mouths, we're reminding ourselves, like we're preaching to the choir in a sense.
Yep.
And then typically after, and tell me if I'm wrong, but typically even after you're speaking and talking about sales and you're getting all worked up and you're doing all this stuff, typically after that, man, you're charging yourself up. You're like, okay, let's go get some business. Right?
Yeah.
That's how I am when I speak and train. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, is also another lesson because that's why role play is so important and one of the crucial things you can do, at least in the businesses that I've been in real estate and in the car business and phone sales, is that role play, getting yourself fired up and walking through some example calls. It's one of the great things that Dave Villa at his company. They have a thing they call boiler room because they call dealers and try to get decision makers on the phone and sell them. And we'll practice that, an hour before we get on the phone every single morning because we want to be sharp and ready when we get on that phone, right? So, who does that? Who do you know that, practices at their office every morning for an hour before they actually start doing business?
Yeah.
It's almost unheard of, but yet the few that do incredible.
Yep.
And you would think it would get old after 4 or 5 years coming in every morning and doing that. And I will say this, earlier when I shared with you that I started in the car business at 22 and I had that guy that interviewed me for 3 hours that became my mentor in the business.
Yeah.
I can also tell you this, that every day for 15 years, we went in the conference room and we trained an hour before the dealership opened up. Every day. Now, you would think at some point you'd get good enough where you don't have to do that, but when you see a guy like Peyton Manning or Tiger Woods and this used to blow my mind. Like I'd be watching a football game and Peyton Manning might be out one game in 10 years,
Yeah.
And he comes back for the next game and he's over on the sidelines warming up, and they're like, well, when Peyton goes in, they're going to have to give him a short pass to get that confidence up. I'm like, what?
Yeah, no.
Arguably maybe one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the history of the world.
Right.
And he's just one game in 15 years and he needs to get his confidence. Are you kidding me? But it's true, right?
Yeah.
So if they have to do it or if they need it or if it's good for them, then I have to have it.
Yeah. I totally agree with it. There's nothing more important than training. Nothing. I totally agree with that. So what is, and we're coming to the end of this just about, first I'm going to ask, what's next for you? I know you've achieved some great things. You spent a lot of time in the car business. Obviously, you're still in it in a variety of ways. But like, and now you're doing the real estate thing. What's next?
Well, for me, right now, I'm very passionate about help connecting realtors and builders, new home builders, because when I made the transition into real estate, I went on purpose. I went to work for a new home builder, a national company, and I wanted to learn that side of it so that later on, when I became a general realtor, I would understand that new home construction process better so that I could serve my clients better.
Right.
So I started there, and I worked there a year and a half, and I did. It was an amazing time. I was the rookie salesperson of the year for 5 states wide.
Wow.
Coming in at the age of 50 with no real estate experience, and we're talking about a big production builder with tons and tons of communities in each state. And but what I saw there was this big gap between, and there still is. There's a huge gap between builder and realtor. And what's interesting is they both have to have one another. They both need each other, and they kind of court each other, but it's like a love-hate relationship. And quite frankly, it's 99% of it is just an education level on both sides. And I'm so excited about this because that was really a big reason to keep the Under Contract Live show thriving, as well as our events. I do events that pair the two up. Right. But I applied for an opportunity to speak, and at the Southeastern Builders Conference over in the Kissimmee, Orlando area in August, and it's a big deal. It's a big conference, and it's not easy to get that that selected. But I was very fortunate. I've been selected to speak, and the title of my session is "The Struggle is Real," parentheses TOR. So the struggle is real, TOR. And I'll be speaking to builders, but I'll be able to speak to them not only as someone that came from the new construction side with great success, but also now is on the realtor side. So I'll be able to kind of cover both angles and help the builders speak the language of the realtors, help them get more out of their salespeople, and also, while at the same time, educate realtors is my big thing right now, educating realtors on the new build process so that they're more confident, they go there instead of avoiding it, and most of all, the consumer wins because they have a better experience.
Wow. So, dude, that's the thing, and I'm gonna summarize myself in one statement here, and that is, you're a guy that is just willing to go do it. And 100%, I guarantee that you feel fear, like, oh God, I got to apply for this speaking thing, and right, what if they turn me down, and
Oh, the craziest thing, which I have shared on my show before, and Lisa Marie Kennedy knows this as well, but Ken, my biggest fear, by far, I was, I was in the Army, I jumped out of airplanes, helicopters, all that stuff.
Wow.
My biggest fear is public speaking.
Yeah.
It's my biggest fear. But I continue to put myself in that place because, otherwise I can't be heard, right? I can't get very far if I'm not heard, at least in what I'm trying to do or attempt to do. So I have to be uncomfortable. And I think maybe that's why I'm a little harsher on those that have a lot of excuses or some excuses, because I'm like, and coming up in the car business also, you learn very quickly that you have to find ways to make things work. You have to find ways to structure a deal or to put a deal together or to influence someone, in sales. So you find ways to make it work. And I'm often around people and I share something big and they're like, well, That's funny, Dave. They think it's funny. I'm like, no, seriously, gonna do this, right? And they're like, well, okay, yeah, all right, Dave.
Yeah.
So, but I'm like, where is the mental block? Like, why? I mean, it's not like I'm, sending a rocket to the moon. I'm just going to do this. I know there's a simple way to maybe do this, or it just takes a lot of work, but there's a path. And
Right.
so anyway, yeah, I appreciate your kind words, but
no, dude, I mean, I like Jeffrey Gitomer's a friend of mine, and I had him on the show, and he's, I forget it takes sales balls to make sales calls. That's his thing, right? And it's like that's what it takes. And nobody will ever say, hey, man, when you start taking on things that are outside of what you're used to, you're going to feel the fear, man. It's like public speaking. Dude, I can remember the first time I did a Periscope Live, and I've said this 1,000 times. I fired up my phone because I'd seen Grant Cardone do it so many times, and I'm like, I was nervous as a hooker in church, man. I'm looking at my phone going, what if an ex-girlfriend's on, or it's like all these things, and you just got to do it anyway. I mean, it's 99.9999% of the time, all of the stuff you're imagining could go wrong does not go wrong.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I confessed to Lisa the other day that every time, and I mean this, every single time that I have spoken, and I've done a lot of public speaking, and I have a lot scheduled, but every time, 30, 60 seconds before I go on, I am literally trying my best to figure out how am I going to get out of this so that I don't have to look up the list.
Right.
I'm like, can I fake like an emergency call just came in? I'm like, can I trip on the way up and act like I'm really, really hurt?
Right.
I mean, all these things are going through my head.
Yeah.
And so I only bring that up because some people will say, well, Dave, man, you're so great at that. Man, you just make it look, I could never do that. Look, man, I'm panicking.
Right.
So if I can panic and do it, you can do it.
Absolutely, dude. I think that's awesome. That's awesome. And again, it's not, and I feel the same exact way. I don't know if you know, but I've been sober 16 years, and it's like, I did sales training for the home security industry many, many years ago, and I'd get on a stage and I was like, I felt fine, but it was because I'd had like 3 shots of Crown Royal before going out. Now I don't have that, right? So it's a completely different thing. And so it's not like you or I or everybody feels that. It's why Tony Robbins jumps up and down on that little mini trampoline to get his energy up, to get his, get all that, because it's like, dude, everybody's feeling that. And if you're not feeling, I've heard people that are, I would say, borderline cocky, say, oh, I'd never get nervous about stuff like that. Then there's something wrong with you, man.
Yes.
I just think if you're not a little bit nervous, if you don't have some butterflies, then you're full of crap, and everybody's going to figure it out. So, dude, I think you're a freaking rock star. I am so grateful I had, and Lisa Marie, she's the one that said, you got to get David Cribbs on the show. And so I'm really, really grateful she did, man, because you rock, dude. You really rock.
Oh.
So
you're too kind. You're too kind. But I do want to acknowledge the people that you mentioned earlier, because as you were naming them off, I didn't want to interrupt and talk about them, but the people you mentioned, like Lisa Marie Kennedy, oh my gosh, Lisa Copeland, Frank Lopes, David Villa, other people that I know we have in common.
Yeah.
They're just amazing people, and any one of them would give the shirt off their backs. I mean, what's great is I could make a phone call right now. All 3 of them would show up at my house within a few hours. Some live across the country, which is pretty doggone cool. And so surround yourself, again, we started with this, but surround yourself with those kind of people that just don't really know any other way to live than living all out.
Dude, that's probably the most important part of this. That and the Greyhound. I mean, but it's got to start with, look, if you're just surrounded with greyhounds, you're probably not going far in life. So, you got to get around people and you got to make sure that those, and Grant talks about this a lot. All successful people that I know talk about, make sure that you're surrounded with the right people. If you're surrounded, if you're surrounded with the wrong people, man. I put something up I posted something on Facebook last week, and it was something like, before you diagnose yourself as depressed and or whatever, first make sure you're not surrounded by a bunch of assholes. The people around us affect us in such a tremendous way, people don't even realize it. So, dude, you're 1,000% spot on. How do people follow you and get a hold of you?
Oh gosh, so best ways to follow me, of course, I'm on Facebook, Dave Cribbs, Cribbs, and then I would be so honored if you actually followed my Under Contract Live page. You'll find, not only have we signed, by the way, Ken, Lisa Marie Kennedy as a permanent co-host, but a couple of months ago, I signed a Wall Street Journal top 50 broker, was number one. I'm sorry, not 2, 3, 4, 5, number one in the entire state of Florida in closed transactions. Now, the mere fact that he's on there, every realtor in the world should be tuning in. He traveled the country as a national sales trainer as well.
Wow.
He just reopened here in Florida. He's the fastest growing broker, I believe, in Florida. I mean, just dynamic person, the type of person like a Grant Cardone, but in the real estate business. And
wow.
And I know Grant is too, but he's in a different investment style.
Yeah.
But the point is that if you would follow that show, it's on Facebook Live. It's about to go into some other platforms as well, but Under Contract Live. Okay. On Facebook, some really cool stuff there. And if anyone, by the way, wants to learn more about podcasting and the different ways to leverage it, that's something that I've been so fortunate with. Ken, I do a training called Paid to Podcast, and so that's always a cool thing to get paid to market yourself. So.
I love it, dude. I love it. That's awesome. Well, I'll be calling you because I'm,
yes.
I kind of know, but I already know most of it. I want to convert this over to podcasts as well. So
yeah, we need to work a trade because you are an expert in things that I am so clueless at. So.
Yeah.
So
we'll figure something out for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, you're awesome, man. So. I will look. I'll make sure that we go back and post your Facebook stuff and all of that up on my pages today, and this is going to be up on Binge Network's TV as well. So this is cool. Yeah. So, dude, thank you so much. I genuinely appreciate you coming on. You, my friend, are a freaking rock star. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who's watched this, who shared this out, liked it, loved it. I see one angry face, so thank you for the haters too. I love you guys too. We love us some haters, right? I mean,
yeah, it's like Grant says. I always remind people, but it's like Grant. I know I keep referring to Grant, but he said some great things. But if I could get half the people in America to hate me, I could be president, right?
That's right, bro. That's right. All right, listen, you guys have an awesome day. Thank you for joining us. We will see you tomorrow with another special guest. David, thank you. I appreciate you, man. You're a rock star. Guys, be great. Have a great day. See you.